welcome to the Art Channel. This week Joshua and myself are going to be reviewing an exhibition by Anish Kapoor of new work at the Lisson Gallery in Bell Street in King's Cross, London. This is a show which exhibits Kapoor's new body of work, and he has returned to painting. And so the first pieces we're going to have a look at are three pieces in the main part of the exhibition called Internal Objects in Three Parts. And these are quite different for Kapoor. They are huge painting stroke sculptures, big, visceral, red objects that look really like body parts or pieces of meat. They're quite shocking pieces of work.
Yes, they're very fleshy and visceral, made with resin and synthetic material that's applied to a mesh support. So they appear to be hanging like canvases, like paintings, against the wall, but have this very deep, rich, heavy texture, like the impasto of a painting by Frank Albach or Leon Kossoff in the London School.
I think it's interesting to see the work of somebody we know as a sculptor who always says that he is actually a painter who makes sculpture. And one of the kind of interesting things that he always says is that he has nothing to say. He doesn't know what's going to happen when he goes into the studio. So he talks very much in relation to these pieces of work about process and how the layers of materials lead you somewhere and you don't know where that's going to be. So it's a real process of discovery. They're quite interesting because we're used to Kapoor making finely wrought, beautiful, kind of high-end pieces of work. And these are big, chunky objects which come out from the wall a couple of feet and sort of do envelop you. They take you by surprise.
Now, of course, he began making sculpture using pigments, didn't he? Raw pigment, sprinkled like a powder over forms that rise up from the floor. And so colour is very much a kind of central interest to his sculpture. These are quite kind of challenging pieces. They combine qualities of both painting and sculpture. They project outwards as this very sort of heavily articulated relief from the wall. But I found them problematic. They're quite unsatisfying. They refer explicitly to the body, to guts. The gallery alludes to an interest in psychological states, but I think that's quite a stretch.
Yeah. I think they're the beginning, possibly, of an interesting body of work, and I think the idea of materiality and colour is central to his work, but I think these are much less resolved than other pieces. He talks about this relationship with red. He is an artist who was born in Mumbai. He's had a relationship with the UK for a long time, but he definitely has his roots in Indian culture, and he talks about red being the colour of marriage, and red having a kind of darkness, moving towards darkness, all of which sounds amazingly interesting, but I don't think these pieces of work live up to that in a way.
There is a connection to a large piece that he made for the Turbine Hall at Tate Modern called Marsyas, referring to the myth of a satyr who was flayed alive by the god Apollo, and also to there is references to sculptural pieces he made using wax at the Royal Academy exhibition, where he fired plugs of molten wax against the wall and also sent an entire block of wax through the architecture of the gallery so that the block was shaped by the semicircular arches of the galleries.
Because that block was kind of skinning itself, a bit like Marsyas, going through the architecture. And I think the fact that he talks about materials having colour, being colour, is very interesting and honest. He doesn't lay colour on top of things. But I think these are not as interesting as some of the other sculpture in the exhibition.
I think the challenge for him, what engages him, is the contrast with his much more familiar sculptures that are resolute, fixed, and very explicitly defined by their materiality. And so there's a kind of, sort of pleasure and curiosity about the sort of formlessness, the shapelessness of this resin and synthetic material applied without any kind of conclusion.
Yeah, it's a new body of work, and it's somebody feeling their way, however experienced he is, he's feeling his way in a new direction, I think, and I think that shows.
It's an antidote, really, to his established practice. So there's an inherent freedom there that I think is very welcome to him. And we can see in the exhibition, can't we, some of these more characteristic pieces, two of which are made from pink onyx, and they're very seductive and beguiling. They look almost edible, don't they?
Yeah,
like
they're
kind
beautiful,
of pink coconut.
actually beautiful, yeah. I think one is called gossamer and the other one is called lichen ear. And they are pieces that sit on the ground, about the size of a bed, I suppose, and they have this beautiful translucent quality, and they are an unserious pink. They're the colour of candy. They're rather beautiful, and they marry kind of formal shapes with something organic, something which reminds you of body parts, but you're not sure which body parts. So they're quite surrealist in a way.
There's the hint of orifices, of openings into the body, that relationship between the exterior of flesh and the body itself, and these kind of openings or entrances into the body, and they're quite kind of erotic, and it's sort of intriguing, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and I think that interest in exterior and interior and where one ends and the other begins is an intrinsic part of his work, and when they work like these do, that absolutely comes together. You know, the form comes together with the ideas in a very satisfactory way.
And you can see how the form emerges out of a solid original block of stone. So you can see the rough-hewn edging, some 90-degree angles and corners, from which emerges this sort of pristine, perfect oval form, and something more kind of like this, like an ear or navel. And finally, of course, one of the pieces, gossamer, has a flaw in it on the surface, a kind of grey, murky, dark area of quartz that provides a sort of sharp contrast with the pink, opaque material around it.
It's quite nice, that lack of perfection, or that kind of glitch in the perfection, isn't it? And I guess the final pieces we were going to discuss are two pieces which would be much more familiar. They are gold-plated on steel, and they hang on the wall, and they're much smaller, and they're much more kind of svelte and finished. And one is called Glove, and again they are about orifices. They look a little like donuts, they look a little like body parts, but they're very seductive, and they're quite amusing, and that's a difficult thing to pull off. They make you smile, they kind of draw you towards them.
It conforms to Kapoor's ongoing interest in optics and how the sculpture kind of can swallow you up and reflect and amplify the architecture and space. And so these corners kind of sort of pull you into the void, the vacuum at the heart of where two walls meet, or in one case, the centre of this kind of donut-shaped form that sits on the wall. So they're very playful and inquiring, and at the same time, highly kind of resolved and perfect in their form.
I like the way they operate. They're on a very simple level because they are made of beautiful stuff, and it's a good visual trick. You know, humans like those kind of distorting mirrors, so they operate on lots of levels, and I think that's quite exciting.
And of course, it confirms or confirms your presence in the space. You are doubled in that mirrored way that is kind of eternally intriguing.
Yeah, it's always going to work, isn't it? It always works on us. So I think, in conclusion, it's definitely an exhibition worth seeing, isn't it? Because it's going to have things that you're going to recognise, things that you are going to feel are familiar, some very, in a way, traditional, beautifully made onyx sculpture, and then these paintings, stroke sculptures, which are fascinating and real works in progress. Possibly, I don't know, unresolved.
But sculpturally quite unsatisfying. It's as if he's taking the material and testing it without being sort of clearer about what it is he's trying to achieve or say.
And I do think there's a lack of sophistication when it comes to the manipulation of the materials, and I know they're meant to be very visceral, but also for me the colour is it's a little bland. I'd like more.
So please come back next week to the next video. If you like any of these films, please give us the thumbs up, or you can subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button on each film. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.